Hey guys, Will at third and long. Welcome to my Week 11 best bets for the 2023 college football season. So we'll be taking a look at every single ranked matchup for Week 11, seeing who wins, who loses, and what we predict the final score will be. And we'll be comparing that to the over-under, the spread, and the money. So go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, and let's get started. Now, if you want a more in-depth breakdown, just go to my 2023 Week 11 predictions video. But let's get started breaking down these games. So tonight, November 9th at 7:30 on ESPN, we have the 2-7 Virginia Cavaliers versus number 11 Louisville. So Louisville sits at 8-1. They are 20.5-point favorites here. Massive spread for a conference game. And the over-under is 50.5. So Virginia, they have a couple wins. They have a win versus Miami. Pretty big wins there. Louisville, they're 8-1. They have a top 20 offense. They have a top 20 defense. They have Plummer at quarterback. He has 2,200 yards. They have Jordan at running back. He has 900 yards. And Virginia has Washington at wide receiver. He is basically their primary weapon. He gets the ball nonstop, but he's closing in on 1,100 yards. So one of the best receivers in the country, hands down. I do not expect this game to be close at all. Louisville should put it on them. They should dominate the game from the start. I have Louisville winning 38-17. They should dominate on both sides of the ball. So I'm going that they're going to cover that spread, and I'm also going with the over on that one. Kicking off Saturday at 12 p.m. on Fox, we have number 3 Michigan at 9-0 versus number 10 Penn State at 8-1. Their only loss, a close one to the Buckeyes. This is one of the best games of the year so far. The best or second best game this weekend. This is a top 10 matchup here. Whoever wins this game could potentially be in control of the Big Ten. So these guys are battling out for playoff spots. Michigan has the off-the-field stuff going on with Jim Harbaugh. Supposedly, the Big Ten could rule today on if there would be any punishment for the school or for Harbaugh. I don't think either way it's going to make a difference on the field. Michigan is a dominant team. The number 1 defense in every single category. Passing, running, total yards, points per game. It's like 6.7. It's crazy how good the defense is, but they haven't played anyone yet. Penn State's sole loss was to the Buckeyes. That was a very close game, very tough, hard-fought game. This will be a line of scrimmage game. They do have a top 10 defense, but their offense with Drew Aller, they just have no vertical weapons to push the ball and test teams down the field. Michigan, 4.5-point favorites here, over under 44.5. I have Michigan getting the win, 28-17, so I have them covering that spread, and I'm going with the over as well. At 12 p.m. on ESPN, we have number 8 Alabama at 8-1. Their only loss to the Texas Longhorns versus Kentucky at 6-3. Kentucky finally stopped a 3-game losing streak. They got a win this past weekend. Bama, 11-point favorites here. Over-under is 46.5. Bama's really gotten things clicking the last month. So Milroe has been throwing the ball. They've been running him a lot, which is what I said they should be doing. Concentrate on the ground game, drain the clock. But Kentucky has somewhat got the offense going for the last month. So Devin Lear started out the year like a complete hot mess, just garbage, couldn't run, couldn't throw. But he's actually been doing pretty good in the last few weeks. They do have Davis at running back. He's closing in on 1,000 yards. So the weapons are there potentially for Kentucky. But I don't think it's going to matter. Now, Kentucky has a very good rush defense, so they're going to try to shut down Bama's running game and try to bottle up Milroe. But they don't have the guys on the back end to keep him from throwing down the field. So I have Alabama getting the win here, 35-17. So I think they're going to cover, and I'm going with the over. At 12 p.m. on Fox Sports, we have 4-5 Texas Tech versus number 16 Kansas at 7-2. Kansas is 3.5-point favorites here, over under 61.5. So Texas Tech, they're better than their 4-5 record. They've had a lot of injuries at the quarterback position this year. They had some really close games. They had close losses versus Wyoming, versus Oregon. So the talent is there. They can play really good teams, really close, and potentially upset them. Kansas, 7-2. They have big wins also. They have wins versus Oklahoma. They have really close losses. They've been without their quarterback the whole year, whether it's Bean, whether it's Daniels, it doesn't really matter. They will basically just run the ball down your throat and control the clock. Now, I would not be surprised if Texas Tech wins this game. This is one of those weird Big 12 games where it's a potential upset. But as of right now, I'm going to go with the favorite. So Kansas 3.5-point favorites, over under 61.5. I am going to go with Kansas winning 30-24. So I think they'll cover, and I'm going with the under. At 12 p.m. on ESPN2, we have 3-6 Tulsa versus number 23 Tulane at 8-1. Tulane 23.5-point favorites here. Massive spread. Over under 53.5. So Tulsa, they don't have a good defense. They don't have a good offense. Virtually no one is giving them a chance in this game, and deservedly so. Tulane at 8-1, their sole loss was to Ole Miss, and they did not have Pratt playing quarterback that game, and they barely lost it. So had he played, they could potentially be undefeated right now, but they are loaded at the skill positions. They have Pratt at quarterback, they have Hughes at running back, they have Keys at wide receiver. So they have a lot of weapons. They can throw it, they can run it. Now, they haven't been hitting the spread the last few weeks because they've been winning one-possession games. But I'm going to go with Tulane to get another win here, 37-20. So I'm going with the plus 23 here. I just don't think that they're going to cover that spread because they haven't covered the spread yet. And I am also going with the over. So just because I think they're going to score a lot of points on Tulsa. At 2 p.m. on the Pac-12 network, we have number 21 Arizona at 6-3. Welcome to the top 25. Long overdue. They have some really good wins this year. They have really close losses. Barely lost to USC. Barely lost to Washington. This is a very talented team under Jedd Fisch. They'll be playing Colorado at 4-5. So Arizona, 10.5-point favorites here. Over under at 54.5. So for Colorado, they have the Deion Sanders hype going on. They have Shedeur Sanders at quarterback. They did change coordinators from, Sean Lewis to like Pat Schumer or whoever the coordinator is now. Will not make a difference at all. Probably shouldn't have changed offensive coordinators. Probably should have changed defensive coordinators since their defense is 131st in the country. That's pathetic. But nonetheless, Colorado does have the firepower to potentially get into a shootout with anyone. But Shedeur Sanders is constantly hit. Their offensive line is not good at all, and they do not run the ball in any way whatsoever. I think they had like 13 to 15 rush attempts per game, but they are always behind, so they're kind of forced to have to throw the ball. But Arizona is a very under-the-radar talented team. Do not sleep on them. I have Arizona here getting the win, 31-24. So I have them not covering, and I'm going with the over. Even if Colorado gets down big, they have the offense to get a lot of garbage time points. Coming in at 3 p.m., we have 3-6 Baylor versus number 25 Kansas State, coming off of a loss, but they sit at 6-3. Kansas State 20.5-point favorites here. Massive in-conference spread, over under 55.5. So Baylor under Dave Aranda have completely fallen off the ship here. He's probably on the hot seat. He should honestly get fired. I mean, I hate to say that, but they stunk last year. They're worse this year. Where's the program going? Kansas State, the defending Big 12 champs. They have a very talented team. They have Will Howard at quarterback. They have Giddens at running back. There's a lot of talent there. They can run the ball. They can control the clock. But even if they couldn't, Baylor doesn't have the defense to stop them anyway. So I definitely see why there's that massive spread. But I'm going to go with Kansas State to get the win, 34-21. So I have them not covering, and I'm going with the under. Just barely. At 3:30 p.m. on ABC, we have 6-3 Miami coming off of that loss versus NC State versus number 4 Florida State at 9-0. Florida State, 14-point favorites here. Over under 50.5. So this is one of those games you don't really know what's going to happen because it's an in-state rivalry game. These teams hate one another, so anything could potentially happen here. With Miami, their offense has completely fallen off the rails the last few weeks. Tyler Van Dyke is basically a shell of himself. He stinks, cannot get the ball to the wideouts. It's kind of like he's mentally broken at this point. Florida State, they have Jordan Travis. They have lots of weapons. They have Travis at quarterback. They have Benson at running back. They have Coleman. Now, some of their weapons might potentially be out this Saturday. They were out last Saturday, but I think this is a rivalry game. They will definitely be playing on Saturday. But it has the potential to be a shootout just due to the rivalry nature. But I'm going to go with Florida State getting the win here, 31-17. So I have them coming in rate of 14 on the push. And I am also going with the under. I don't envision it being a shootout, like a 34-30 game. But I could definitely see Florida State winning like 40-20. So I could see it being a blowout. Coming in at 3:30 p.m. on Fox, we have number 18, Utah at 7-2 versus number 5, Washington at 9-0. Washington, 9.5-point favorites here. Over under 51.5. This is a really good underrated top 25 matchup here. Utah plays everybody really tough. Just ask any team that they've played. They're extremely physical at the line of scrimmage. Washington is not. So that's where Utah could potentially stay in this game. Now, you can kind of liken this to when USC played Utah. That game was kind of a shootout here. So this definitely has the potential to be that. And that's a pretty big spread versus a top 10 defense there because Utah, they don't have Cam Rising, but they have a really good physical defense. Kyle Whittingham is a great coach, the most underrated coach in the country. But nonetheless, Washington has either the number 1 or number 2 Heisman quarterback. They have Michael Penix Jr., they have Washington at running back. They have Johnson at running back. They have one of the best wide receiver corps in the country, led by Odunze. This team is loaded. It will be hard to shut them down. They don't need much time to throw the ball. Penix is really good under pressure. I have Washington getting the win here, 34-27. So I have them not covering just because that's a really good defense that they're playing, but I am going with the over. Coming in at 3:30 on CBS, we have number 13 Tennessee at 7-2, having a really strong year this year, versus number 14 Missouri at 7-2. Tennessee 1-point favorites here, so a virtual pick 'em. The over/under 58.5. So a pretty high scoring game here. These teams are kind of in the same place, so they're both battling for second place in the SEC East. Missouri is coming off of that close loss versus Georgia. Tennessee still has Georgia. So they definitely want to win this game, potentially get in the top 10, which would be setting up a top 10 matchup for Georgia. So that would be huge. Tennessee has a pretty decent defense, but they've mainly been running the ball. And Milton hasn't been having a good year, but he's definitely serviceable. Missouri, they have a they don't have a good defense, but they have a above average defense, but they have a really good, efficient offense. They have Cook at quarterback. They have Schrader at running back. They have Burden at wide receiver. So they can beat you any way that they need to beat you. Throwing, running the ball, anything. But I have Missouri getting the win here versus Tennessee. I have them winning 33-31. So I have them covering the spread, and I'm going with the over here. I would not in any way be surprised if it's flip-flopped and it's the other way. 33-31, Tennessee wins. These teams are basically in the same place. So it's a 50-50. I'm only going with the kicker being that Missouri is at home. If this was at Tennessee, then they win 33-31. Next game at 3:30 p.m. on ESPN, we have number 15 Oklahoma State at 7-2, coming off of that hard-fought win versus Oklahoma versus UCF at 4-5. Oklahoma State 2.5-point favorites here, over under 64.5. So Oklahoma State, they have Gordon at running back, hands down one of the best running backs in the country. He's gone over 200 yards like 4 or 5 times this year. He's got 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns. They can completely control the game and just run the clock, just running him nonstop. And the Golden Knights will in no way be able to stop their run game. But do not underestimate UCF because they're actually far better than their record shows because their quarterback, John Rice Plumlee, was actually out for a lot of games, and that's the games they lost. When he plays, they're a completely different team. A lot of people calling for the upset here. This game is in Florida, so Oklahoma State has to travel across the whole country to play the Golden Knights. That's what's setting up for the upset. But I'm going with Oklahoma State to win this game, and I have them winning 30-20. So I have them covering the spread, and I'm going with the under as well. I mean, them being at 64 and a half, they basically had this game being a complete shootout. That is very possible, but I'm going to go with the under. At 3:30 p.m. on the Big Ten Network, we have Rutgers at Iowa. So Iowa's number 22. Rutgers 6-3 coming off that loss versus Ohio State. Iowa 1.5 point favorites here. That's just pathetic. And the over-under 28.5. Iowa is a complete mess. I've made it very clear this whole year. Kirk Ferentz, the fact that he kept his son Brian Ferentz at coordinator after last year is just completely pathetic. They have the worst offense in the history of football. It's straight out of 1950s football. It in no way belongs on the field. They have no business being ranked at all when you cannot score 20 points per game. Give me 20 points per game. They can't do it. It's a complete joke. They are ranked again. They just keep throwing them in there. But anyways, looking at this game, like I said, Iowa is 1.5 point favorites here. So I'm going to go with Iowa getting the win. And this is a complete joke. 17-14 in one of the most low-scoring, boring games ever. If this game is on TV, please save yourself the hardship. Do not watch it. But I have them winning 17-14, covering the spread. And surprisingly, I'm going to go with the over. A massive 31 points, which is a massive scoring game for Iowa standards. Next game we have, but you would not be pressed to go with the under because they always go under. We have Stanford versus Oregon State next at 5:30 p.m. on the Pac-12 Network. Stanford 3-6. Oregon State is 7-2. They are number 12. Oregon State 20.5 point favorites here. That's a pretty big spread there. Over under 54.5. So I have Oregon State getting the win here. They just have the better team in every single facet. They have DJU at quarterback. He can run it. He can throw it. They have Martinez at running back. He has 900 yards so far. So whatever they need to do to win the game, they can do it. Like I said, running, throwing. Their defense has some holes, so they definitely have the possibility to give up points to Stanford. Stanford has shown that they can completely stink one week, and then the next week they can be somewhat competitive. But I'm going to go with kind of a lower scoring game. I have Oregon State winning 28-14, so not covering, and I'm going with the under. Next game at 7 p.m. on ESPN, number 9 Ole Miss at 8-1 versus number 2 Georgia at 9-0. Georgia 10.5 point favorites here, over under 58.5. This is the game of the weekend here. Another top 10 matchup battling for control of who's going to potentially get into the playoffs. If Ole Miss wins, it completely throws college football into complete chaos because now you have a whole lot of one-loss teams with really strong records, including Georgia. But Georgia could still potentially get to the SEC championship. So if they win, do they get in? No one knows. Where does Ole Miss fall? Because their only loss is to Bama, who's probably not going to lose again this season. So it just creates complete chaos. Georgia, Brock Bowers still not playing. Carson Beck has definitely stepped up. Ole Miss can run it. They have Quinton Junkins. They have Jackson Dart. So they can almost do anything that they need to do to win this game. This game could be a very close game. I have Georgia getting the win 28-24, so not covering, and I'm going with the under. But like I said, this game is stacked up to be a very close game, potentially. Coming in at 7 p.m. on Fox, we have 6-3 West Virginia. Props to Neil Brown having a really strong year this year. A lot of people picked him to get fired this year. So that's definitely not going to happen now. Versus number 17, Oklahoma at 7-2. They are reeling. They are on a 2-game losing streak. Could have been a 3-game losing streak. They have issues at the running back position. They can't run the ball, and their defense is starting to wear out at this point of the year. Oklahoma, 13-point favorites here, over under 58.5. Their saving grace, they still have Dylan Gabriel at quarterback. The guy can still win you the game if it is a one-possession game. I'm going to go with Oklahoma getting the win here, 38-24. I have them covering that spread, and I'm going with the over. But this is a game to watch because this is a potential upset game here, definitely, because West Virginia has the hot hand right now. Coming in at 7:30 on NBC, 3-6 Michigan State coming off of a win versus Nebraska, versus number 1 Ohio State at 9-0 with the number 3 defense in the country. Buckeyes 31.5 point favorites here, over under 47.5. So the Buckeyes have not lit anybody up this year. Kyle McCord, I'm sorry, he's not a good quarterback at all. This Buckeyes team is basically the 2010 LSU team. Really good defense, really good wide receivers. They have Landry, they had Beckham, but absolutely no quarterback. That's this team. One of the best wide receivers cores in the country, led by Marvin Harrison Jr. Very, very good run game, top-notch defense, but just no quarterback. But that defense is going to get you a lot of wins. They are cruising right now, so I'm going to go with Ohio State to get the win here. 38-13, not covering, but I'm going with the over. At 7:30 p.m. on ABC, we have number 7 Texas at 8-1 versus TCU at 4-5. Texas, 10-point favorites here, over under 53.5. This is one of those games, just like the other ones, it has the potential to be an upset here. So Texas is being pretty quiet. We don't know if Quinn Ewers is playing. If not, it will be Malik Murphy. He's done pretty good the last 2 weeks, filling in for Quinn Ewers. They've been getting some hard-fought wins here. Texas' saving grace is they have a top 20 defense. They get a lot of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. It's extremely hard to run on Texas. So you're not going to control the clock versus the Texas Longhorns. And they have Brooks at running back closing in on 1,100 yards. They can run the ball down your throat. They can control the clock. And they also have Worthy at wide receiver. So if they need a 3rd and long first down, they have someone that can go get it for them. TCU is very hot statistically. They're not having a good year, but they're a lot better than their 4-5 record. But I'm going to go with Texas here to get the win, 34-23, so cover and go over. If Quinn Ewers plays, then they definitely win the game. But they are still on upset alert. 7:30 p.m. on the SEC Network, 5-4 Florida Gators versus number 19 LSU at 6-3. Both teams coming off of losses, so who can handle the loss better? LSU, 14-point favorites here, over under 63.5. So Billy Napier's Florida Gators, he has to win one of his last 3 games. After this, they have, Missouri and Florida State. So 3 straight ranked matchups. If they lose all of them, they don't get a bowl game and his seat gets really hot. They have to try to steal one. So this could potentially be the one they steal because LSU, we don't know if Daniels is going to suit up yet. I think he will be suiting up, but we don't know yet. If it's Nussmeier, the guy was awful last weekend. But I have Daniels playing. I have LSU, who has a top 5 offense. They can give up some points, but they can definitely score some points. But I have LSU getting the win here, 38-28. So I have them not covering the spread, but I'm going with the over. But I would not be surprised if they score 50 points here. At 8 p.m. on the ACC Network, we have 6-3 Duke. Riley Leonard is out. They've been reeling since he got hurt. Versus number 24, North Carolina Tar Heels at 7-2. Welcome back to the top 25 to them. UNC 14.5-point favorites here, over under 50.5. So it makes sense why there's that spread there, because obviously Riley Leonard's out. When he doesn't play, Duke cannot throw the ball at all. Versus the Tar Heels, led by Drake May. They have Hampton, they have Jones, they have Walker, and they have that top 5 draft pick, Drake May, at the quarterback position. That's the difference maker. I have UNC cruising to the win, 30-17. So I don't have them covering, and I'm also going with the under as well. 10:30 p.m. on Fox, we have our final game here, a late one. 7-3 USC versus number 6 Oregon Ducks at 8-1. This game should honestly be a little earlier because this is a under-the-radar, really good game. One of the top quarterback matchups this year. So last week we had Caleb Williams versus Michael Penix. This weekend we have Caleb Williams versus Bo Nix. Bo Nix is either 1 or 2 for the Heisman right now, him and Michael Penix. This game is going to be fun. This has the potential to be a shootout. So Oregon's 15-point favorites here, over under 73.5. Massive point total there. I would not be surprised if it goes to 100, just like last week's game versus Washington. But I have Oregon getting the win here. They are the best one-loss team. To me, they are the team out of every single college football team I would not want to be playing this weekend. They have a top 10 offense. They have the number 11 defense. So they can beat you multiple ways. They have Bo Nix, who has 1 pick. They only have 1 fumble as a team this year. They can run the ball with Irving, They have lots of weapons at wide receiver with Franklin. But USC, they have a god-awful, horrible defense. But they have a really good offense led by Caleb Williams, who should still be playing. They just fired Alex Grinch. That's long overdue. He should have been fired when he was the Sooners' defensive coordinator. So that's not going to make the difference here. If anything, these last couple of games, they're just going to get worse because they're changing their play calls. But I have Oregon cruising to an easy win here and getting the win 51-30. So they will cover that spread, and I'm going with the over as well. So that's my breakdown of the Week 11 2023 college football matchups for the best bets. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks.